evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals for Wednesday, September 4th, 2019, and thank you all for coming. The first item on our agenda is a roll call vote.
Ms. Cernova?
Here.
Mr. Beck?
Here.
Mr. Sutton?
Here.
Mr. Posilides?
Here.
Mr. Reichel?
Present.
Mr. Schultz?
Present. All right, you get fined for that.
And now we will dance.
I'd like to introduce the members of the board. My name is Bob Souls. I'm the chairman of the Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals. Next to me is Tim Reichel. Tim is the vice chairman. Demetrius Posilides is our secretary. And our two other members are Jeff Sutton and Richard Beck. And Tia Cernova is our alternate member. Tom Ferreira is also here this evening. He is the township zoning director. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the agenda this evening? Do you have any changes? If none, the agenda will stand as presented. We do have a statement of duties for the Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals, which I believe you provide copies at the back.
And the folder there.
On the back for anyone to read at your leisure this evening to put you to sleep. The minutes from August 7, 2019. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton?
Yes.
Mr. Posilides?
Yes.
Mr. Reichel?
Abstain.
Mr. Souls?
Abstain.
Excuse me, Ms. Cernova?
Yes.
All right. The minutes have been approved. Is there any unfinished business? Nope, hearing none. New business this evening, we do have 3 appeals tonight, and our first appeal is appeal number 1288-19. That is applicant and owner William Muzzy, 2514 Demington Avenue, Northwest Canton, Ohio. Requests the following: to construct a 16-foot by 18-foot or 288 square foot residential carport addition to the south side of the residence, and a 31-foot by 6-foot or 186 square foot kitchen and porch addition to the front west side of the residence. And that's on the property located at 2514 Demington Avenue, and it's parcel number 52-04263. It's requesting a 34-foot front yard setback variance. 35 foot is required. 1 foot setback variance is requested. A 6-foot south side setback is proposed. 7 foot required. 1 foot setback variance is requested. Is there someone here to speak in favor of this appeal or present this appeal? Yes, sir. You could please come forward and raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the information about the present is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Okay, you could state your name and address, please.
William Muzzy, 2514 Demington Avenue Northwest.
All right, if you can go ahead and please state the basis for your appeal, sir.
Well, pretty clear cut. I have a small 1-car garage, and I'd like to place a carport tastefully done in front of that garage. That's also cover for the side door, which is the door we always use that goes into our kitchen. And then remodel the kitchen, which is also a very small kitchen, by bumping out the front 6 foot, same width as the present kitchen. And then the rest of it being a front porch. Presently, the side door has a little awning over it. The front porch stoop has a little awning over it. And our picture window has an awning over it. So I want to get rid of those and make it just a little bit bigger. It's kind of modest remodel. But, you know, it's a lot for us, considering we've had a 1948 Youngstown kitchen for all these years. So we think we're past due. If you're familiar with the metal kitchens.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add, sir?
I have the builder. It's going to be tastefully done. And that's about all I have to add.
Okay. Is anyone else here to speak in favor of this appeal? I did receive a couple letters from, I believe, some neighbors, which I will read. This letter is in reference to zoning appeal 1288-19. I live directly across the street from William, is it Muzzy or Musey?
It's Muzzy.
Muzzy. For the last 13 years, and I've known the Muzzies to be extremely responsible homeowners who take great pride in their property and are meticulous in the maintenance of it. Furthermore, Mr. Muzzy is a good neighbor and goes out of his way to help others on the street whenever he's asked. He's my full endorsement and support in this appeal. I hope you grant his variance. This is from Gregory Dallas of 2515 Demington Avenue. And then we have another one, which is we have no problems with all the additions William Muzzy wants to do with his home. Mark Mallett and Christine Roth, 2520 Demington Avenue. Okay. Is anyone else here to speak in opposition to this appeal? If not, questions from the board?
Not a question, but just a basic comment, that this was one of those neighborhoods that was kind of grandfathered out, I should say, with the minimal lot lines and things of that nature. You had mentioned a 1948 kitchen, so I think we know where we're going with that. Do you know when the house was built?
1948.
1948. That's all I have.
Any other comments? I do want to read into the record the comments from the fire department, if I can find them. This is from Scott Kelly, Inspector. The fire department has no recommendations or suggestions regarding this appeal. Sir, you can be seated. Any other questions at all? If not, I hear a motion relative to this appeal.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman. Whereas applicant on William Muzzy, 2514 Demington Avenue, Northwest, Canton, Ohio 44708, request the following to construct a 16-foot by 18-foot residential carport addition in the south side of the residence and a 31-foot by 6-foot kitchen and porch addition to the front west side of the residence on the property located at 2514 Demington Avenue, Northwest Canton, Ohio 44708, parcel number 52-04263. Now therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals to grant the request. Goes on to mention Article 7, Section 702.3, minimum lot and yard requirements. A 34-foot front yard setback variance proposed, 35-foot required, 1-foot setback variance requested. A 6-foot south side setback proposed, 7-foot required, 1-foot setback variance requested.
Here a second?
Second.
Discussion. Any comments on approval or denial of this appeal?
It just is what I had stated earlier, and we've somewhat given some of these folks a chance in the fact that things have vastly changed since 1948. Tastefully done. It will cooperate with the neighborhood and the attitude there being, and seeing there's no opposition against and several neighbors in favor of.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton?
Yes.
Mr. Porcelides?
Yes.
Mr. Reichel?
Yes.
And Mr. Solls?
Yes. Appeal has been granted. Follow up with Mr. Ferrara for the zoning permit.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
All right, before I move on to the next appeal, I do want to read into the record the comments from the Plain Township Fire Department, both of whom are from Scott Kelly, the inspector. This is with respect to appeal number 1289-19, Deshaun Camisa, 1928 Amarillo Street. The fire department has no recommendations or suggestions regarding this appeal. And then there is appeal number 1290-19, Patricia Lukoki, applicant, 7510 East Pleasant Valley Road, Independence, Ohio. This is concerning the Jackson Township Mount Pleasant LLC. The fire department has no recommendations or suggestions regarding this appeal. Also, before I move on to the next two appeals, anyone who plans to speak this evening, I would ask that you please stand and raise your right hand so we could administer an oath. So anyone who intends to speak at all this evening. Do you all swear and affirm to the best of your knowledge and belief to give truthful testimony?
Yes.
That's it. All right, the next appeal is appeal number 1289-19, Applicant and owner, Deshaun Kamwesa, 1928 Amarillo Street Northwest, North Canton, Ohio. Request to build a secondary principal building in place of the garage that is currently on the property to provide a home for Mr. Kamwesa's parents at property located at 1928 Amarillo Street, North Canton. It's parcel number 100097779. And this is based upon Article 6, Section 603.2, that no more than one principal building shall be permitted on any lot in any district unless otherwise specifically stated in its regulations or is permitted in district regulations. And then we have permitted uses which relate to single-family dwelling. Is there someone here to present this appeal? Yes, sir. If you can please come forward. State your name and address.
My name is Deshaun Kamwesa, 1928 Amarillo Street.
You can just give the basis for your appeal and why the board should consider granting this appeal.
So the basis for my appeal is my parents recently retired. As many baby boomers have or will be, realize that their financial situation is in a place that may need some assistance, and living in their current residence in Columbus was not feasible anymore. They also wanted to be closer to my family, our children. We have 3 children. And we moved into the Amarillo property with the hopes of converting the building that exists there, utilizing the space there for a residential place for my parents. The existing building was used previously as a garage. It's a large oversized garage, 768 square feet, and it's a good size, and it would be one level for my parents. It would be tastefully done. We have a contractor who we know personally, named Dave Schuffner, and it would adhere to the appearance of the primary building that's on the property. It would serve as a place that would give my parents some semblance of dignity and privacy, and it would be utilized in a way that otherwise we're not really utilizing it currently, except for additional storage. Our plan is not to disrupt what's happening in the neighborhood. Our plan is not to bring in some different element and allow this to become a rental, because I know that's one of the fears that exists there, is that this building would be converted to a rental, and it would bring down property values. Our plan is to provide a place of residence for my parents. And I have done the due diligence to look into what it would take to restrict the deed to keep it so that it would not be used as a rental. Spoke to an attorney, Brian Grimsley, who told me, he's the one who handled our title transfer. He assured me that the deed restriction would be in place and would only be changed or overturned if I, as the prior owner, were to give permission. I have no intention of doing that. We intend on living in this neighborhood for the foreseeable future, and we hope that this is a neighborhood that my parents can enjoy being part of as well. As far as the concerns that are there, I took the time. I've gone to my neighbors and I spoke with them about the plan, about what we're doing. Some have been in favor, some have been opposed. I have no intention of disrupting the harmony of the neighborhood. Ultimately, I want to take care of my parents, and I feel that this is a way that we can do that. We would do it tastefully, we would do it well. It would not be a cheap job. I wouldn't be doing it, so it would be done well. Somebody who knows what they're doing. And ultimately, it's something that I'm hoping would actually enhance the neighborhood, because I think my parents enhance whatever neighborhood they come into, even though I understand the regulations and restrictions that are in place.
Thank you. Is anyone else here to speak in favor of this appeal? Next, we will have anyone who wants to speak in opposition, but before I do that, I do have a couple letters I did receive. The first one is, Mr. Souls, I read a notice of a public hearing regarding the property at 1928 Amarillo, North Canton, Ohio. The owner applicant apparently is seeking a zoning variance so that he can take down his existing unattached garage and build a new home for his parents, which I don't believe that's accurate. I think
No, we plan on using.
you're using the existing garage.
Correct.
My wife, Wendy Rockenfelder, and I, both lawyers, have lived in this community, Steiner Heights, for almost 30 years. We love this neighborhood because it is diverse and is zoned single-family residential. On September 4th, the hearing date on this issue, we will be out of town. Therefore, we are writing this letter to oppose the property owner's request for building a home on the existing property where there is already a home. In our experience, once a variance is allowed or restriction eased on the property, all the neighborhood properties could well seek to build new rental homes on existing single-family property. And if you need me, please contact me. Then we have, thank you very much for your attention to this matter. In summary, we oppose allowing the property owner to build another principal building for the purpose of housing his parents. We see no reason why the same could not be accomplished by adding on the existing residence, what might be called a mother-in-law suite. Please oppose this request. This is from J. Dean Caro and Wendy Rockenfelder of 1772 Amarillo Street. And then there's one other. This is from a Timothy and Janet Morris at 1921 Cheswold Circle, Northeast. We would like to express our concern regarding Mr. Kenless's appeal to build a secondary home for his parents on his property. This property touches half our backyard. We are mostly screened by evergreen plantings from seeing this property, but would be close to proposed building if it stands where the current garage now sits. We applaud Mr. Kenless's concern and care for his parents. We understand how difficult this is. We ourselves have taken in elderly parents until their deaths. We have no objection to an addition to his home to make more room for his parents, but we are concerned with the precedent a second residence on his property would create for the neighborhood and Plain Township. While we would be inclined to allow such a thing for his parents only, the fact remains that after they pass or the property is sold, the extra building would remain and would be available for use for rent, Airbnb, or extended family. This would be unacceptable to the neighborhood. We feel that we value our homes. We extend Mr. Kenless the best wishes as he deals with the difficult situation. That is from Tim and Janet Morris. Okay, anyone else here to speak in opposition to this appeal? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Bob,
If you could please state your name and address, please.
my name's Tom Reesner, and I live at 1731 Amarillo Street, just down the road from the party. And my heart goes out to you. I commend you that you want to do something great for your parents. It's a horrible way to meet you. But we do oppose this, and our concern is just what you have read. We really don't want to see rental properties because everybody else in the neighborhood is going to be on the bandwagon to put another home in their backyard for their children or whoever. Now we've got a single residential allotment, and it's going to be, we're concerned about more rentals, or bed and breakfasts, and eventually someday that home's going to be sold, and with two homes on the property, it most likely is going to become a rental. So my wife and I do oppose this granting this.
Please spell your last name.
REASONER,
The address.
1731 Amarillo.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in opposition? Ma'am, come forward.
My name's Mary Price. I live at 950 Rushmore Avenue. The reason we moved to Steiner Heights was because it was a residential, there was not extra buildings or businesses running out of the backyard as a rental property. My heart does go out to you. I love that you want to care for your family. But you can build on a mother-in-law suite and it does the same job without putting an extra home on the property. And when someday they pass or they move on and they move away, that changes it. Because if you let them do it, then other people in our neighborhood can do that, and it just changes that atmosphere. And that was the whole reason we moved to this neighborhood.
Thank you, ma'am.
What was your last name, ma'am?
Price.
Price.
Thank you.
Sir?
My name is Dennis Kraft, K-R-A-F-T. I live right next door.
Address.
1940 Amarillo. I apologize.
Okay.
This is uncomfortable for me. They live right next door. You know, I like to have a good relationship with my neighbors. But with that being said, I talked with Deshaun. I explained my feelings to him. I said, you know, I moved here 3 years ago. And the reason that I moved there was for the integrity of the neighborhood. Now, if you build a second building or use the existing building and it becomes a secondary home, that destroys the integrity of the neighborhood. I also want privacy. I bought the lot that I bought, number one, because I got a good deal, but number two, because it had an enormous yard. Well, with that enormous yard, I have some privacy. But with another place being built or being converted into a livable space, that takes my privacy and reduces the amount of privacy that I have to very little. Because there's going to be windows and doors. I mean, it's going to be like a regular apartment. And there again, down the line, we can't say what's going to happen in the future. We can plan for the future, but the future changes. The future changes in days. So as the future changes, this could end up being a rental. Because if you allow somebody to change the rule now, somewhere down the line, somebody's going to come back and say, okay, we have this extra building and we would really like to rent it out, so on and so forth. But I'm opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak in opposition to this bill? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm John Bott. I live at 1010 Briarview.
John Bott, can you spell your last name?
V-A-U-G-H-T. I don't like the idea of rentals, and we just fought off, D-Hoff, I went to a town hall meeting about them trying to put multifamily units over across the street from us on Market Street, but, where they're developing all that land. I think if you put a rental in our neighborhood, it'll just spur other rentals, and my property value just went up and my taxes just went up. And I want to keep my property value very high, and I think this will bring it down. And I know that it'll never reduce my property taxes, but I think this will reduce the value of my home, and I don't like that. But I think you guys can put an addition on the home rather than taking the garage. And I think taking the garage up is going to put cars on the street. It's going to cause other issues. But I think the best choice would be to put an addition on the house instead of making the garage into a home.
Thank you, sir. Sir?
My name is Rod Guiley. I live at 924 Coral Northwest. That's also in Steiner Heights. And my property is approximately 225 feet from the subject property. And I'm sure the board has already done its own research, but the property that's subject to this appeal does touch 5 other properties, both within and without Steiner Heights. I am not in favor of this proposal for many of the reasons that have already been stated. There's no point in repeating that. As much as I love family, I have to think about the 200 to 300 other families in Steiner Heights that moved there, assuming and realizing that they were living in an R1 residential neighborhood. To my knowledge, having been there for over 40 years, I'm not aware where this has happened anywhere else in Steiner Heights. And I think it's a terrible precedent to set for that community. And lastly, for what it's worth, not, I'm sure, controlling to this board, but the deed restrictions for Steiner Heights, numbers 1, 2, and 3, have been in place since 1955 and very clearly state that there shall be only 1 residential building per lot. And those restrictions, I think, were what many people relied on. I feel bad if these folks purchased that property not knowing what the deed restrictions are, or purchased that property thinking that it would be easy to appeal to this board. So I would, for those reasons, request that this board not set a precedent that we wouldn't want to see continue.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in opposition to this appeal? Yes, sir. Mr. Galley, I appreciate the comments relative to the deed restrictions. Unfortunately, we don't consider deed restrictions from our standpoint in terms of approval of any.
We understand that, Mr. Souls.
Joseph Kirkman.
Joseph Kirkman?
Kirkman.
Oh, Kirkman.
I live at 905 Briarview. I got a corner lot. I've lived here 13 years.
I oppose it. I do commend him trying to take care of his parents. I think there are other ways to do it instead of building a building that can potentially a rental property, because it is a nice, comfortable neighborhood, and that's just been the right mind.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak in opposition to the appeal? Sir, can you come forward again? We have questions from the board. I will start with one. You heard many questions about why it is you can't add on to the house, because it seems to me that that's, another alternative to provide for your parents. So what's the basis as to why you cannot add an addition onto the home?
So there's two bases. So the first is the building that already exists there, we wanted to utilize it. It's already, we're not planning on tearing it down, we just wanted to make sure that we get stewards of what's there and use it. It's already kind of connected with electricity. It's been checked out by the sanitation department, the health department. They approved that it would be it would be fine to add into the septic tank. So we went through it and said, you know what, there's a building here, we can utilize it, it's close by, it gives my parents a semblance of privacy. I mean, I'm Kenyan originally, by birth, we came from Kenya. There's not any problem with having, I realize this isn't Kenya, this is America. We moved here because we wanted to come to a country that had the freedom to have something like this, right? In Kenya, there's a certain importance in having some parental distance from your children. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have that with an addition, but it just provides an extra sense of dignity for my parents, which I'm considered of, which I understand is not culturally relevant maybe, but for me it is personally deeply relevant. Secondly, adding on to the building, the existing building, would actually be more expensive than renovating this actual facility that we have now. So that was a consideration, because we don't have money, growing off of trees. My parents sold their property in Westerville, and the proceeds that they'll use for that will be for the conversion of this building if approved. If not, they'll live with us, they'll stay with us, and we'll go through the proper channels of doing what we need to do to be within the regulations. But we came to this board knowing that we wanted to try to at least find out if there was a way of utilizing the property that's there. That answers your question.
Yes. Any other questions?
If I may,
Yes.
in regards to the question about property value, I was concerned about that as well. I have no interest in diminishing anybody's property value. As a matter of fact, I called 2 different realtors, one at DeHoff, one at Whipple. They both told me, based on the description of the property, based on the description of the plans that we have for the place, they said there's no reason why that would diminish the property value whatsoever. As a matter of fact, they believe that would increase our property value, which would subsequently then.
Well, did they say that would increase your property value? What about the neighboring property values? Did you discuss that?
They said they'd have to have an appraiser come out and look at the neighborhood, but they said that, it would increase our property value, definitely, which would then subsequently, if it's done well, but hopefully subsequently increase our neighbor's property.
Okay.
If it wasn't done as a rental, that was the piece
Right.
that I asked them about too, because we don't plan, like I said, we can consider restrictions for that.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I have some questions. Who lives in the home right now?
Who lives in our home right now?
Yes.
Myself, my wife, our 3 children, and currently, my parents just came up from Columbus. Their house sold in a very short amount of time, so.
How old are your kids?
My kids are 5, 3, and 22 months, yeah.
How old are your parents?
My father is 74, my mother is 65.
How many square feet are in your house? Approximately.
Approximately, 2,100, yeah, 2,100.
2,100. How many bedrooms?
There are 4 bedrooms,
How many baths?
2 bathrooms,
Or 2
2 and a half, I'm sorry.
2.
2 full bathrooms and a half bath.
Who was when you bought when did you buy the property?
We bought the property in June of, the process completed, closed on June of this year.
And did you have your own realtor?
Yes, we worked through, actually, we did a direct sale. We didn't go through a realtor. We bought the property from my sister-in-law.
So your sister-in-law owned the property before you did?
Correct. My sister and brother-in-law owned the property before we did. And,
And there was no realtor involved?
nope, we bought both of our houses direct sale.
So when you bought the property, were you under the impression that you were going to be able to use that garage as a second residence?
That was our hope initially, yeah.
The difference between hope and understanding, okay? Where did you gain, I'm going to ask you, where did you gain the understanding that you were going to be able to use that garage as a second residence?
That was in discussion with my brother and sister-in-law, and just we did not have the understanding of the restrictions that existed there with the.
You didn't talk to a realtor and ask them, hey, am I going to be able to use this as a
No,
second home? You didn't talk to any government official that might have said, yeah, you'll be able to use it.
Prior to purchase?
Yes, prior to purchase.
No.
And as far as the garage goes, are you keeping the four walls?
Yes, sir.
So you're going to keep the four walls, not change anything to the foundation or to the structure, correct?
Correct.
You're not going to add on.
When I spoke with Mr. Ferrara, we will be adding on a 4x8, just basically closet for the closet for additional storage space in the back. That's the plan, but
Inside the four walls or is this outside the four walls?
it will still be within the four wall. It will be an outletting that's.
Well, you're also going to be putting in, there's going to be walls in this place, right? You're going to be putting walls up.
There will be
I assume
walls,
so.
yes.
Because you're going to have a kitchen, a living room, a bedroom, and a bath.
Right.
So I guess when you say you're going to have more storage, are you adding on to the building?
We'll be making storage within the building, I'm sorry. It'll still be four walls, there will not be an additional.
It's the same footprint as your garage is. You're
Correct.
not gonna do anything different other than do the interior work on the inside.
Correct, sorry.
And you're obviously going to have plumbing.
Yes, sir,
There's no plumbing right now.
correct.
And obviously the intent is to have a second residence there.
Correct.
Anything else? Anything else? Okay, you can be seated, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, well, let's have a motion for this appeal.
Make the motion. Whereas applicant owner Sean Calessa, 1928 Amarillo Street, Northwest North Canton, Ohio 44720, requests to build a secondary principal building in place of the garage that is currently on the property to provide a home for Mr. Calessa's parents at property located at 1928 Amarillo Street, Northwest North Canton, Ohio 44720, parcel number 1000977 Now therefore be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals to grant the request, Article 6, Section 603.2, no more than one principal building shall be permitted on any lot in any district unless otherwise specifically stated in these regulations or is permitted in district regulations. Article 7, Section 702.2A2, permitted uses single-family dwelling, in this case, to permit a second principal building on the premises to exist.
Okay. hear a second on that motion?
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, discussion.
Right, my first question is, and actually, this may be directed to the board as a whole, and also to Tom. You know, says it's a request to build a secondary principal building. He's not building a second principal building, right?
Right.
He's using the existing building. However, it's clear that the section 603 point, and I guess it doesn't, my point's gonna be it doesn't matter whether he's actually building a secondary principal building or not. It's that he wants to use a second building on the premises as a principal building, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it doesn't matter whether he's building or whether he wants to use the garage and do whatever. I just wanted to make that clear, because it does say on here, build a secondary principal. He clearly is not building a second principal building, but that doesn't matter. The code section is clear that you're not allowed to have a second building on the premises as a principal building.
As a single-family dwelling.
As a single family dwelling.
Comments I would make, certainly well, personally, I commend what you want to do for your parents. The rationale or the reasons that you gave relative to adding an addition on your home to do that, not good enough. I mean, ultimately, you said, you can use the existing building. Obviously, that'd be nice, and it's less expensive. Unfortunately, those aren't good enough reasons, at least under law, that would allow us, at least in my personal opinion, to grant a variance of this nature to have a secondary principal residence on the property. So based upon, what you've testified to relative to that, I would not be in favor.
I'd like to just add one thing. This is very near and dear to my heart because I'm dealing with my own parents now. And yes, as Mr. Guiley has stated, this would be setting somewhat of a precedent. And when we set precedent, we have to be very wise, very cautious, very skeptical of what we are creating. People my age, looking out for their parents, you ask yourselves the questions, where are they going to spend their golden years? If this would pass and a precedent was set, I think obviously you as an intelligent man would understand that maybe 3 or 4 other neighbors, maybe not necessarily in Steiner Heights, but in other neighborhoods, are now using detached garages for secondary homes for their parents. So we start with 1, then there's 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, it does disturb, as I think it was Mr. Kraft in the back had said, the integrity of what you bought in the first place. You went into the beautiful neighborhood, very diverse, very, very nice, very quiet. And by doing this, if a precedent was set, there's the possibility of that happening as well. That if you start it, 2 or 3 other people want to do the same thing, now the neighborhood is not as what it was. But I commend you for loving your parents and wanting to take care of your parents. But I would be against this as well because of the precedent setting change that would be made.
If I could make a comment too, I think that the intended use is very laudatory, and you should be commended for what you want to do to take care of your parents. However, looking into the future, at some point in time, you will be disposing of this property, and there's nothing to prevent the new owners from creating that as a rental. And I think that is a concern that is worth considering.
Any further comments?
I don't know.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Pick?
No.
Mr. Sutton?
No.
Mr. Posenides?
No.
Mr. Reichel?
No.
Mr. Sauls?
No. Okay, unfortunately, appeal's been denied. I'm certainly wishing the best of luck, and whether you decide to add an addition or do something different.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Next appeal is appeal number 1290-19. Applicant is Patricia Ricosi, 7510 East Pleasant Valley Road, Independence, Ohio, 44131. Owner is Jackson Township Mount Pleasant LLC, 6675 Parkland Boulevard, Solon, Ohio. Requests a conditional use permit for multifamily dwellings containing more than 4 dwelling units per building on 30.76 acres located on Mount Pleasant Street Northwest, east of Pittsburgh Street. That is parcel number 1000979, and that's under conditional permitted uses. Conditional use permit for multifamily dwellings containing more than 4 dwellings units per building shall not be permitted unless a conditional use permit is granted. Is there someone here to speak in favor of this?
I would be.
And you would be,
Please state your name and address.
Patricia Ricosi with Redwood 7510 Pleasant Valley Road.
Excuse me.
yeah, folks, you're fine, just take it outside. We're still on record.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
I'm sorry, ma'am, if you could state your name and address again.
Oh, sure. Patricia Ricosi with Redwood 7510 East Pleasant Valley Road in Independence, Ohio.
Okay. You can state the basis for your appeal.
Is, I'm not sure if I have a presentation, I'm not sure if you want to hear who Redwood is.
Whatever you want to present, have at it.
Okay,
We kind of know a little bit. I mean, obviously Redwood
I
has
do
the
too.
apartment complexes over off of 62, so I've seen it, I'm familiar with it. I recognize kind of at least what that looks like.
okay, yep, if you don't mind
No.
pressing the buttons. We went through a branding process about a year ago, so all of our Redwood developments have this Redwood sign in front of them. We are, who is Redwood? Single-story low-density apartment neighborhoods. As of January, I'm not sure the exact date, we had over 10,000 COs. 90% of our portfolio is leased. Again, we're in Independence, Ohio, resident focused, and we have on-site professional management 24/7. Thank you. Who lives here? Empty nesters, young professionals, and in this market, 1,500 to 1,600 a month will be our lease rate. The majority of our people that live in our neighborhoods want maintenance-free lifestyle. Yeah, the only thing we build are 2-bedroom, 2 full baths, 2 car garages, 1 level. That's all we do. Private again, 2 car garages, single story, extensive landscaping, stone and shake siding accents, 0 clearance for FHA, vaulted ceilings, personal patio, any kitchens, and private streets. Except for, we're in 6 states. We just went into Michigan, and we went into, or not Michigan, sorry, we went into Illinois and Kentucky, and now we have over 91 neighborhoods, going to probably over 100 by the end of this year. Again, that's where we are. I have to, actually, I just updated this, but not for this presentation, so I apologize. But Illinois is in there now, and Kentucky's in there now. And we're looking into 5 other markets at this point. As I said before, we do one thing really well, and that is 2-bedroom, 2 full baths, 2 car garages. And we try to have fun every now and then. That's exterior of our elevations. Carriage style garage doors, personal outdoor patio spaces, and we do all landscaping, snow removal are handled by Redwood. Except for Hydro Falls and I think there's 1 city in Columbus. All of our streets are private, and Redwood takes care of all of exterior maintenance, landscaping, snowplow, all of that is up to us to do that. And there's just some community exteriors, actually that's in Hudson, and the other one's in Wadsworth. Our front door. And again, we do a lot of streetscaping, we're into landscaping, and we're really proud of our communities.
And again, our units are 13 to 1,600 square feet, granite countertops in the kitchen and baths, private entryways, open floor plans, and Energy Star certified. And I think that's just some more interior pictures of what we do, open concept. Again, thank you. Just more interior shots. Yep. And then we will be building these three, and then I guess the next slide, I think there's 2 more. I think there's 5 total that we'll be building. Yes, oh, I'm sorry, 6. And that's where the site is. And it was currently zoned residential, or RR, and we had it rezoned to multifamily. And multifamily only allows 4 units per building. And we're here this evening to ask for conditional use to allow us to have, out of 32 buildings, 15 of the 32 contain 3 to 4 dwelling units, 17 contain 5 to 8, and we would like to have those 17 buildings be allowed to have 5 to 8. And the reason for that is more building, like the larger the building, the more open space we have. And if you allowed us to do the 4 units per 4 unit buildings, we could have 44 buildings, but in this case, we would only have 32. And so that's why we're here tonight. We do not believe that we have like a few questions here that I would like to read. Will the design and construct operating payments so as it to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance of the interior in general? Considering our buildings, architecture, and street design will not be changed by reducing the number of buildings while increasing their length. Redwood utilizes a standardized color palette that will not be altered. Uses to the north and west are of a higher intensity, commercial use, and include the Dyeville facility to the north and proposed office warehouse building entitled to Turtle Bay to the west. We have committed to providing an 80-foot buffer with the residential neighborhood to the south and providing for buildings no greater than 4 units in order to reduce building mass from that neighborhood. We are committed to maintaining 4 dwelling buildings within an 80-foot buffer to the residents of our south. I think that kind of covers everything. And if I could just say, to the south, and we have, just to let you know, when we started going through this rezoning process with the county as well as the zoning commission and the trustees, as we met with the neighbors prior to, and we said that to that south area, we have an 80-foot buffer, which we don't need to have that according to your code, but we're doing that to be good adjacent owners. And those will all be 4-unit buildings with additional buffer. And we have met with those property owners. Actually, we even walked the site with them on this.
Please leave that picture. Can you go back to that? While you have it up, I thought I'd ask my question now, because when I look at your map here. The entrance up, that's the north entrance, that goes to Mount Pleasant. Have you already been cleared for this one to take it all the way out to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, we're working with that now. Yeah, we have to have that.
Okay,
Yep.
so you're gonna have, this is gonna go out to Pittsburgh,
Yes,
correct?
that is correct. Through Turtle Bay, yep.
Okay. And I'm sure if that didn't go out there, we'd probably hear something from the fire department, but,
Yeah, and we addressed that through the zoning process.
okay.
And in fact, the owners on the south side, they were happy that we were not going to go through their development, but we were going out to the other street.
Pittsburgh, yeah.
Yes. So again, we met with them and we've had a lot of conversation, and that's why we're looking for a small variance, if you will, of just a number of buildings, as I was discussing with 17, to allow like less buildings and to have more open space.
Good.
More open space is good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is anyone else here to speak in favor of this appeal? People here to speak in opposition to this appeal? Okay, I see 2. Good people. You can be seated, ma'am, we'll hear from these folks. Please state your name and address, ma'am.
My name is Jean Capley of Variola. I live at 3910 Cranwood Street. My property butts against the property in concern. I guess I just kind of noticed, I said these appeals are really wearing down the neighborhood. I said we started with a large group of people that were really interested, and now we're down to 3. But I guess, I don't know, I just kind of want to go back to what, like some of our initial concerns were, just things that we were saying about our green space in, that corner of Plain Township. I mean, it's a beautiful area, and, Redwood really has beautiful interiors to their place, but we're not gonna see the interiors. And I guess, moving from 4 units to having 6, I look at it as that they're gonna be putting more units in, so that's gonna decrease the green space that's left. I mean, we have little. I've been to the ones in Louisville, I've driven to those, I've driven to the ones in North Canton. The exterior structure is very, I know some of them in green, some of them have nice brick fronts to them and this and that, and other ones, another one next to it are just very plain. But for some of us, where the houses are positioned, we're not even gonna see that. We're higher, so we're just gonna see these massive roofs. And again, I guess I'm just trying to plead that, you give us just whatever little green space we can have to cling on to with our view of that area. Again, I just feel that going from 4 to 6 units, and like I said, I was looking at the ones in green, there's hardly any green space. It's probably not even from me to you guys, that's the green space between like the units. And, sometimes between the driveways, it's all gravel and I don't know. So I guess in just summing up, I'm just pleading that, you give us at least whatever green space we can have left to look at and possibly, and I just don't agree with moving to the 6 or larger units, even though along the bordering properties, they say they do 4, but again, I'm higher up and I'm just gonna see massive roofs. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else to speak in opposition, sir? You had your hand up. Please state your name and address.
Certainly. My name is Richard Grella, Grella. I live at 3763 Cranwood Street Northwest, and I've been a property owner there for almost 29 years. And the Redwood property will abut my property. She says that there have been great communication. No, there has not been any communication. No one walked the property with me. I stated before, you stated that you also went out to 62 and Broadway and you've seen their units out there. And you see how they look from behind and they look like boxcars strung together. And that's what I'm going to be looking at. So if you want to increase the number of boxcars we have there, that's what the appeal was about. And, I'm looking at it from aesthetics wise. Sure, it looks good from the front. And they show you the front and they show you the insides. They don't show you the back side. And if you look out at 62 and Broadway, you'll see the back side. That's what I'm going to have to be looking at. And it's bad enough I have to look at 4 of them. I don't want to look at 6 of them. And if I can use an analogy, they're like a hospital gown. You look good from the front, but the back lacks a lot of attention, and it's butt ugly. So I am opposed to letting them increase the size of these units. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else speak in opposition? Yes, sir. Please come forward and state your name and address.
Scott Slesnick, 3917 Cranwood. I'm abutting the property. I'm just, I guess the fact that they said they're committed to the 80-foot buffer and they're committed to building the 4 units along the back is nice, but I don't think there's any legal, I mean, I don't know if there is or not. Something
Well, we can make it as part of our conditional use permit that.
I mean, if you are considering letting them do the more than 4 units, I would definitely want to make sure that they were locked into, what they told us. And they also, they did communicate with me, and actually I couldn't make it. My wife, she was going to meet with them when they walked the property, but she wasn't able to. But they did actually call us and tell us when they were going to be there to walk the property. And they said they were going to put in, a bunch of evergreens along the property line so we didn't have to see. And I believe that's in the plans that they said they were going to put those in, maintain it.
you know, I guess my concern is if you're considering doing this, you know, we're not horribly opposed, but, you know, that's a busy street, that's a very busy area, and putting in a higher density population in that area is a bit of a concern to us. You know, but the main concern is what they've committed to us. We want to make sure that they have to stick to that. And if you decided to keep them at 4 units, we'd be happy about that too.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else to speak in opposition or in favor of this appeal, questions from the board? No, I do have some questions for the board. So, you indicated this property was rezoned.
Yes.
What, and I guess what zoning would have been more proper to allow them to have more units? Would it be the high density, I guess? What would that be?
The R4.
R4 would have permitted that?
Yeah.
Why isn't it that Redwood did not seek R4 zoning at that time, if that's what they intended or wanted to do?
We thought that the zoning that we went through was, would be, how should I put this on public record? Maybe more easily to get through, I will be honest. However, if you don't grant me the ability to build 6 or 8 units, then I will do I will do 4 units.
Yeah, I understand.
But economically, and that's why we're coming for the variance. Like, we knew up front, when we went for this rezoning, sir, that it was 4 units per building. We knew that. So we thought, okay, let's go for that, and then let's go for a variance, and not have all of them 6 or 8 unit buildings, but a few of them, maybe half, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you felt that by getting this zoning would be more easily passed than going for R4.
And it was very difficult, let me just say that.
Okay.
What was difficult?
To get the R3,
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah, to go from RR to go to multifamily.
So, let's go to the units. You're basically proposing, I think you testified, you said 44 buildings down to 32 buildings.
Yes, right now, we have 32 buildings.
So this is what you're proposing with,
Yeah, 32 buildings.
with
for
177 units?
Yes,
Okay.
and if we only went to 4 unit buildings,
Okay,
it
what
would
would you
take
have?
us up to 44 instead of the 32 that's on our concept plan.
And how many units would that be then? Would those-
Still the same number,
So you'd still have the same number of units?
yes, but we would have less open space.
And that was one of the, I think, concerns one of the neighboring property owners had, that it was gonna be less green space. You're saying you're actually gonna have more green space, is what you're saying?
Yes. And then, as I also testified, to the south, I'm directionally impaired, so I think that's to the south. We have, when we went through the rezoning with the county and the trustees and the zoning commission, that we said that we would give that amount of buffer and do additional landscaping. And we did. I'm sorry that someone didn't think that we met with them, but we did contact the neighbors, and we did have a meeting with them one evening, and I think maybe 12 neighbors showed up, and we did talk about what we wanted to do.
Okay. Now, how about the access to Pittsburgh? Indicated, I thought there said, there's gonna be multiple entrance and exits at Pittsburgh and Mount Pleasant, or just one?
No.
Just one each?
Yeah, just one.
Okay,
One
so at
one
Pittsburgh,
going north and one going west.
Which is north on the map? I'm just kind of
I'll help
confused,
you
I'm
out.
sorry. I just want to
Yeah.
get my bearings, thank you.
This is south here,
Okay,
Yeah, up
that's
is north.
south, okay,
that's north,
okay.
okay? That's Mount Pleasant up there.
And that's where the catch basin is, that gray
This
area?
is the catch basin
Okay.
right here, the huge dugout areas right there.
Yeah, that's a dry basin.
Diebold is
Yes.
up there in the corner over there.
okay. I was just reading, we are planning on 2 points of access on both Mount Pleasant and Pittsburgh. So it's
Just
not
one each.
really, both is Mount Pleasant and Pittsburgh, not 2 on both.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes,
that's what
sir.
confused me a little bit. And on Pittsburgh, you don't own that property, so you're seeking, what, an easement over that property?
Yes, and we are working with owners now on that. And so, yes,
And you don't have that?
as of today, no, but we are going through that process of getting that. Because we do know that we have to have that access for the 177 units. And so we are working with the owners on that. And actually, it's not shown on here, but there's already been a 60-foot right-of-way that's been, I believe it's been platted for that access into that road.
All right, I don't have any further questions.
If this goes forward, when are you looking to start construction? And two questions. When are you looking to start construction? And two, when will you know the answer to that entrance going out or egress and ingress going out to Pittsburgh?
As I said, we're working on that now. We know that we can't move forward with this plan without having that access.
Okay, you cannot.
We cannot, because we have 177 units. So we are working with the sellers on that now, and it's just a matter of going through the process.
And you're,
And that's with Turtle Bay, which I think they're looking at doing a couple of buildings there, if I'm correct.
commercial buildings.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, sir.
What,
And I believe that's Jackson Township.
so your intent is to, irrespective of whether this is approved or not approved, you'll just build the 32, or the 44 buildings with 4 units? Is that
Yes.
accurate?
Yes.
And that's permitted, I suppose, in terms of the drawings and everything?
Yes. But right now, that is not showing that.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
No, I understand what you're saying. Okay.
So what you're saying is if we don't approve this, you're gonna come back and do 44 buildings of 4 units,
Yes.
which
It's
is
176.
176. Right now,
Or
you're,
177, I think.
well, right now you're at 177. 44 times 4 is
176.
176.
Okay,
But you're saying you're gonna have less green space because you're gonna have to use more space to do the other project as opposed to this project.
yes,
And the style of the building is going to be the same? I mean, it may be, I know 6 units is bigger than 4, but the style is the same?
yes,
So, as the one resident said, he doesn't like how they look, that's not gonna matter which one you build, they're gonna look like they look
that's correct.
at the hospital down in
Just
Allen.
bigger eyes on that.
But to Mr. Grilla, who brought up that topic, and you brought it up, the ones facing you are just 2 units.
They're all 4-unit buildings.
Or 4 unit, they're not 8.
Nope, no, sir.
The ones facing the south
Those have
neighborhood
4
where all
on
these
each one?
people live.
Yes.
These are the smallest footprint that you have
That-
facing them,
That's correct.
correct?
Don't you have 3
And we did that because when we had our neighborhood meeting, they talked about what their concerns were, and that's when we said, okay, let's do all 4 units there, and then get the additional buffer that was not required by code, but that's what we've done.
Any other questions from the board?
And that road to Pittsburgh, or that access, is that gonna be, you're gonna share that with the other lot, the D-Hoff lot?
It'll go through, it'll be within that right-of-way, the 60-foot right-of-way, but yes, they can have access to that.
But what I'm saying is if I'm driving to Pittsburgh off this map, I'm gonna be running into, there'll be other traffic from the other building that's right there. It's not gonna be a dedicated roadway just for your people.
That is correct.
They're gonna maybe be going into a parking lot.
I don't know
Whatever
that.
they're putting there, which appears to be a commercial building
Yeah,
of
with-
some sort.
I don't know
Yeah.
how that will end up being. And that goes through Jackson, or yeah, that's into Jackson Township at that.
And ask the zoning director, if they wanted, if they're gonna do the 4 units, they don't have to come back to us, they can just go and do the 4 units.
Did you have a question or a comment, sir?
Well, yeah, I know I need to address you, but I want to know if there's a site plan for the 4-unit, because I may withdraw my opposition if there's actually more green space with these units.
As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, if she goes all 4s instead of what she's you're gonna have more buildings and less green space.
Right, I was just wondering if there's a
So
layout
do you have
of
a
that.
site plan, or did you have a site?
No, I
plan?
don't.
There's.
I do not, I just.
But you're-
I just
They're asking a site plan for the 4 unit.
If there's one with the 4 unit, no, this is with the,
Yeah,
with the
no, I
6.
do not have.
I'm just curious what it would look like the other way.
Understood. I get where you're coming from, but yeah,
You would assume with 44 buildings versus 32, it would, but I understand what you're saying. And she's basically testified that there would be additional green space for that.
Which makes sense.
I guess it makes sense. I mean, if it's not gonna change the number of people who could live there, I guess I really don't have much of an opposition. I mean, if it would reduce the number of people that could live in the area,
It doesn't appear to. Okay, any further questions from the board? Okay, thank you,
Is
ma'am.
that all? Okay, thank you.
Motion, please?
I'll make a motion, whereas applicant Patricia Rucosi, 7510 East Plaza Valley Road, Independence, Ohio, 44131. Owner Jackson Township, Mount Pleasant LLC, 6675 Parkland Boulevard, Solon, Ohio, requests a conditional use permit for multifamily dwellings containing more than 4 dwelling units per building on 30.76 acres located on Mount Pleasant Street Northwest, east of Pittsburgh Street Northwest, parcel number 55-03140. Now therefore be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals to grant the following request under Article 7, Section 705.2 B2, conditional permit use, to permit a conditional use permit for multifamily dwellings containing more than 4 dwelling units per building to the south.
I'll second that.
I have a question on that. Is that a parcel number?
Yeah, that parcel,
Yes.
I think that parcel number is
Okay.
incorrect.
Okay.
There, because I think the reason I'm going off their legal description here, and it says this parcel.
Okay.
That's the
Got
one.
it. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
I think we should have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Second.
Thank you.
So from a discussion standpoint,
You know, I'd be generally against, I agree with the green space thing. I wish we had more green space, I really do. I'm a lifelong, we're almost lifelong resident of Plain Township since I was 6 years old. And I really, really do not like all the traffic. I really do not like all the green that's going away. But in this case, really, they're gonna just come back and build the 4 units. And it makes sense that the 4 units are gonna take more space than the 6 units. And there's nothing we can do about that. If there was, tell me how, and I'll sign up for it.
that would have been at the zoning change.
That- Yeah,
Which
and
we don't.
which we don't do.
which we have no control.
But if somebody can think of a way to not have all the, I think we got enough people living in Plain Township, honestly. I wish we could stop it, but, I mean, from what we're doing is our job. I mean, I see, yeah, this makes sense. They're gonna build something there, this is gonna give more green space. It may still be ugly, okay, but you'll have at least maybe more green space to look at otherwise.
So you're saying 6 is what you're,
Yeah, that's what I'm
But
saying.
isn't it 6 to 8 that she was saying though, they could put, so they could even be 8 units long?
Yeah, she's saying,
Yes.
they're
And
gonna,
they're in this diagram, but they're up toward Mount Pleasant, they're not by you, they're not down by your
but they're
neighborhood.
still gonna stay with 4 units on my property?
And I'll
That's what it looks like on here.
Okay, no one told me that.
My,
I would not probably be here had I been told that. But there was no communication with me from this company.
my position basically on this would be, I would be in favor, based upon what you've presented, in favor of the conditional use permit, subject to the following. That you maintain that 80-foot buffer, and plantings with evergreen trees all along that buffer. That the 4 units would basically be placed along the residential neighborhood as is depicted on the proposed site plan that you presented. And that you also have to have access to Pittsburgh. So that's what I would propose, and I guess I'd maybe ask if you want to modify your motion.
And I'm in total agreement with Mr. Souls on that for those 3 conditions.
or I'll modify my motion to include the conditions of, you said maintain an 80-foot
80-foot buffer with, the plantings and evergreen trees.
with the plantings and the evergreen trees.
That would be the second one, and then 4 units would be along the residential property, which is depicted
On
on
the
the
south.
south side.
and access to Pittsburgh Rec. So
Correct.
there would be 3 conditions.
Correct.
And so, Mr. Beck, will you second that?
I will second
amendment to the motion?
Any other discussion, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Beck,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton,
Yes.
Mr. Posilides,
Yes.
Mr. Reichel,
Yes.
and Mr. Solz.
Yes. Okay.
I'm all for more green space, Mr. Pusolides.
Do we need to change that parcel number
Well,
to 1289?
I looked it up in auditor and it was still the 10 whatever.
Well, I think 1289 is correct.
Okay,
It's 1290 that I,
Okay.
but I read it into the record as it
Okay.
is. I don't think we have to change it.
so we're covered.
We're good. Thanks to Jeff Coffin.
Anything else?
That was very good.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.